Hello, everybody. I'm Christian, and I have the honor to introduce our next presenter, Sergeant Chris Miller. Sergeant Chris Miller has been with the Lubbock Police Department since January of 2004. He holds a Master Peace Officer license and Advanced Instructor Certificate from the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement. His career in law enforcement has spanned numerous investigative and administrative environments. He has experience conducting various types of criminal investigations, including those involving crimes against property, crimes against persons, and the investigations of narcotic-related offenses. Sergeant Miller has been assigned to the Patrol Division as a patrol officer, field training officer, crime scene officer, and a patrol sergeant. He was assigned to the Lubbock Police Academy as an instructor and range master. He was also assigned to the Lubbock Police Department's Office of Professional Standards, where he conducted administrative investigations on alleged officer misconduct. Sergeant Miller is currently assigned to the Lubbock Police Department's Special Operations Division and works as a task force officer with a Drug Enforcement Administration's high-intensity drug trafficking area. Sergeant Miller's current duties involve the investigation and prosecution of drug trafficking offenses in both state and federal courts. So please give a warm welcome to Sergeant Chris Miller.
Good morning. I am not as eloquent of a speaker as the two previous speakers were. This is not something I do all the time. I do have some experience with instruction many, many moons ago. So when I was asked to do this, I was like, awesome, okay. So, but with that, I would like to touch base a little bit on the very first presenter. I believe her name was Laura. She really opened my eyes personally, because I don't think there is anybody in this room that their family has not been impacted, and really in society as a whole, by substance abuse and addiction. My family is no different. I have a mother and a father who have struggled with alcohol addiction or abuse. My sister has struggled with heroin addiction and prescription opioid addictions. And my brother in 2015 took his own life. Listening to that marijuana talk earlier really opened my eyes, and they say hindsight is 20/20. So looking back on it, I was like, wow, that's what Zach was struggling with. So with that, again, I am with the Lubbock Police Department. I am assigned as a task force officer to the Drug Enforcement Administration. And I'm going to try to not blow out the speakers in here. So if I do, I apologize. I'm used to speaking without one of these. I was asked to cover drug trends in the Lubbock regional area. And that's really a broad topic. And I tend to go a little overboard. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, so I have way too many slides. So if I seem like I am just racing through things, I apologize. I'm trying to get through everything. Wow, okay, wow. Let's go back. I'm not racing. That was not planned, but that worked out well. Let me go back. Okay, now you're seeing all this. Yes. Hold it up. Okay. Okay, let's try this again. All right, so this is what I really decided that would probably be the best way to cover the drug trends in this area. So we're going to talk about, common drugs in the Lubbock area. I'm going to give a general overview of those drugs that we commonly see in our area. I'm also going to cover the associated terminology and drug paraphernalia related with that drug use. And then what I'm going to try to get to is a shortened down, condensed version of our One Pill Can Kill campaign presentation. What we do, that presentation is primarily geared towards our youth. We are very active in the school districts as far as getting that information in front of the kids. So I think to date, we've given that presentation to close to 2,000 children in our area. So, but with that, I changed the batteries last night. Okay. Some common things we're going to see around through all these drug trends and drug uses is some common drug paraphernalia. You're going to have scales. So right here, has anybody ever seen one of those? On the left-hand side, okay? That's a finger scale. You don't see them very often, but if you see that, or if you see your small little pocket-sized digital scale, that's a clue, okay? That means you need to start looking further, okay? Because every drug dealer and every drug user wants to know they're getting their money's worth, right? Baggies. Baggies come in all shapes, forms, and sizes. You've got your regular sandwich bag. These aren't your Ziploc style large bags. They use these bags to, they basically they'll drop the whatever prescribed amount of illicit substance into that bag, and then they'll get it down into a corner, and they'll tie a knot, tear it off. It's called a corner. Then you also have these little bitty, like quarter-size Ziploc baggies. Right. Those, you'll see, they'll have graphics on there. I have never come across any of those style of baggies with legitimate use. Can anybody counter that? No? Okay. So if you see those, be concerned, okay? Another thing that's really weird, when we're looking at our bulk marijuana as it comes into the area, a lot of times what we'll see is we see the vacuum sealed bags, right? But specifically, for whatever reason, we have the black plastic. It's like a solid black. It's not clear on one side, or it may be black on both sides. I don't know why we see that, but I don't see it I know you can't buy it in Walmart. You can't buy it in, Sam's Club or anything like that, or even at United, H-E-B. But I assume those are marketed to the weed distributors, as it may block the smell. It does not. So marijuana. I am not going to come near touching Laura's presentation, okay? I'll tell you that, because that was a phenomenal one. Just some common street names you may hear it called: Mary Jane, Bud, Blunt, Chronic, Dope, Ganja, Grass, Hash, Herb, Hydro, Joint, Pot, Reefer, Skunk, Smoke, Weed. Anybody think of another one I don't have up here? What was that? Dro? Yeah, Dro. It's a little short for hydro, so hydroponic weed. So, not even going to cover that, because Laura did a phenomenal job with it. Some of the paraphernalia that you're going to see associated with that, you're going to see rolling papers or Swisher Sweet or any kind of flavored tobacco leaf product. What they'll do with that is they will empty out the tobacco, replace that wrapper or the contents of that wrapper with marijuana, and it gives it a sweeter smell and flavor. You're going to see your glass pipes. You're going to see, again, your scales. This little round thing with all the teeth on the inside, it's usually in 3 parts. You're going to have the lid, you're going to have the grinder, and then you may also have a screen, and then the actual container that catches everything. They'll put the plant material in there. They'll turn the lid that will grind it so that they can then load it into the blunt or the rolling paper. This is, you saw that in Laura's presentation earlier. That's going to be for smoking the dabs. So they'll put they'll put water in here. They'll put the dab in there, and then that's obviously how they inhale the fumes. Same thing, the classic bong, right? All of these things can be bought at any local head shop, smoke shop, CBD store. They've usually got it in a back room. When you go in there and you try to take a picture, I used to take my, when I was a training officer on patrol, I'd always take my new trainees and I would say, well, let's go into the head shop. We're going to look around real quick. And when two uniformed officers walk into a smoke shop, automatically they're on the phone. They're calling the owner. They're like, hey, what do we do? They're in here. And I was like, I want to go back there and look at I want to show him all the not drug paraphernalia, right? And they're like, well, you can't go back there. I was like, yeah, I can. Are you not a business open to the public? And they said, well, yeah. I was like, you're not in any trouble. I'm just educating my officer. So we go back there and do that. So that was always fun to do. And inevitably, every now and then, the owner would show up, and they'd be very nervous. You know, they're kind of like they're kneading bread in their hands. I'm like, you're fine. You know, we'll be out of your way in just a second. But they were always accommodating. So that we did appreciate that. This is just a map of the U.S., obviously. All the colored states are where marijuana is somewhat legalized. So that is why it's so prevalent in our local area, is you can drive an hour down the road to Clovis, New Mexico, and right there at the state, or even right there at Tex line at the state line, there's a dispensary, not 500 feet the other side of the state line. Again, Laura has touched on some of this. I pulled all of these images and percentages off of a dispensary's website that is located in Clovis, New Mexico. So she was saying, when we were growing, back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, THC concentration in normal weed was, what'd she say, 2%, right? And it steadily increased from there. This is the hybrid marijuana that they've, because we've always got to make things better, stronger. So that's the highest potency that you can buy at that business. It's 27% THC, and you can see they're ranked. So as you go through, you got the infused blunt, where they just take a rolled marijuana cigarette and they dip it in the tincture or the oils. Anything from here down are all felonies for any amount in the state of Texas. This marijuana is still considered a misdemeanor, just the plant in Texas. We still deal a lot with it. Prosecutions, I can't speak to. I don't know what the prosecution rate is right now through the district attorney's office, but it's everywhere. The biggest problem we're having right now are obviously the vape pens and the edibles. How many educators do we have in the room? A few? Y'all seen a lot of this in the schools? Yeah? And what Laura told us about the concentrations, and they take one hit, they've got enough dose of what? She was saying like 50 marijuana cigarettes at Woodstock. That's insane. Oh. Okay, this was a bust from. You're going to see a lot of pictures like this in this presentation because I was in the Marine Corps and I like pictures, right? So, but this gentleman, he was an award-winning weed poet. Lives here in Lubbock. Yeah, that's a real thing. I didn't know that, but yeah, they have poetry contests. He actually has some land in Northern California. He grows the weed, cultivates it, and then he will then box it up and mail it back to his house here in Lubbock. With that, I guess there was a lot of these jars and even a 5-gallon bucket that was about halfway full of this black, oily substance. And it did test positive for THC. So we took that and everything else, but his main thing that he was trying to make was this THC or CBD, as he called it, salve. So it's supposedly good for aching joints and whatever. He was a little bit of he's very granola. Okay, that's a good way to put it. Super nice individual. Didn't have any problems with him. He was prosecuted for this though. That house, that previous house was over off 66 and Avenue P. This house was a federal investigation. A lot of weed, a lot of cocaine in that investigation, but this house was at 114th and Chicago area. Okay? What I'm going to do whenever I show you these pictures, I'm going to show you that drugs are throughout this entire community. You cannot go a square mile and not find a drug house. Okay? Just to let you know. So right here, this is not local. This is from an article I found on the website when I was researching for this program. This is an article from 2018 where they are actually marketing all of these products to our youth. They have to be. Look how they're packaged. So we got Doritos. There's nothing changed on it. It looks like your normal package of Doritos, except it has this little THC thing right there at the bottom. All right? We got Stonios. We got Ruffles potato chips, Lifesavers gummies, not Haribo, but Caribou for cannabis, right? We got Trolley gummies up here. It looks like stuff you'd see in your local convenience store. So given their market of who they're trying to market these things to, that 18 to 24-year-old consumer, that makes total sense. All right, cocaine. Cocaine predominantly is brought into Texas through the Mexican border, okay? Whether that Mexican border being in California, all the way, or California, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas. Every now and then we get some coming in through Florida. Not very often, though. Typically, the two largest drug cartels that are predominant in our area right now is the Sinaloa Drug Cartel and CJNG. They're the ones. CJNG tends to deal more with the cocaine and meth. They all deal with meth. But this is what's referred to as a kilo. Okay, that is 1,000 kilograms of product. It is typically a powder. Well, when they'll break it off of this, they basically put it in a press, a hydraulic press, and that's how they form these bricks of cocaine. And that's strictly for smuggling purposes, okay? Once they get it in, they'll break off a piece, they'll cut it up and distribute it into smaller, here's those Ziploc baggies again, or the corner bags, and that's how they will distribute it. Some common names, you have blow, coca, coke, crack, crank, flake, rock, snow. I've never actually heard this. That one came off the DEA website. I was like, okay, I'll throw it in there. Typically how it's used, it's snorted or dissolved in water and injected. Cocaine users, usually they'll binge on the drug until they are exhausted or run out of cocaine. Crack cocaine is always smoked. So when you're paraphernalia related to crack or just regular cocaine in general, they're either going to be snorting it with a dollar bill, a tube, or even straw, some way to act as a funnel to get it into their nose. They'll even use a key. You see people with like that long pinky nail. Y'all ever seen that on someone? Go, man, that's kind of weird, right? Well, that's a cocaine scoop, right? Again, you got your scale here. We don't see a lot of this in our area as far as injecting cocaine, but it can be done. Crack cocaine. Crack cocaine is definitely probably the most predominant form of cocaine that we have in our area. Crack cocaine is made by combining baking soda with the cocaine and water. Typically what they'll do is they'll put it in a Pyrex dish, whether it be a measuring cup is probably the most common thing, like a 1 cup or a 2 cup measuring cup, Pyrex, and they'll throw it in the microwave and they'll cook it. Adding the baking soda changes the chemical composition and gives it a drastically different high. And as we know from a lot of us grew up in the 90s, right, in high school. You remember the movies New Jack City and things of that nature? Yes, I'm losing you. Okay, but that was crack cocaine. That story was about crack cocaine when it hit the major cities. Some things you want to look for when you're dealing with crack cocaine. If you see a steel wool or Brillo pad, okay, a glass tube, or if they take an air pressure gauge, they'll take the ends off of it, and they'll just so you have the hollow tube. They'll take the Brillo pad or the steel wool. They'll stuff it into one end so that they can then stuff a rock of cocaine into that pipe. They will light it, and that Brillo pad or steel wool acts as a filter so that they don't actually inhale accidentally that burning hot rock. Okay? What they're trying to do is they're trying to inhale the vapors off of that. This is a local drug bust from 2 years ago, either early last year or late of 21. These individuals, as our SWAT team hit the front door, they went running out the back. They had a nice little backpack that they dropped in the yard as the K-9 bit one of them and assisted him to the ground, as they say. But in that backpack, we found about $80,000 in cash and this brick of cocaine, or that kilo. A kilo, typically raw, pure cocaine, will typically go for $32,000. That's usually the going rate. Why do they make crack out of it? Because then they can cut it with baking soda, make the crack, and they can typically triple their money off of that 1 kilo on the sale. Okay? That's the draw. So here, this was like in a garage. This is not in the kitchen. So they've got a microwave set up. They've got some Brillo pad right there. Right here, it's hard to see. There's a scale, and then there's a spoon right there for mixing it up. This is in a back bedroom, the same house. That's going to be a very well-used glass stem or a glass crack pipe. You will also tend to see plates. They love using plates for whatever reason, because basically what they do is when they take I've got another picture here in a second. When they make the crack in a measuring cup, when it's dried out, the product comes out. It's called a cookie, right? So it comes out, and then they stick it on the plate. That's actually a cookie right there that's still in a bag, right? You can't tell in the picture very well, but there's actually small little rocks that are on the plate from them cutting it up. And that's where you get the term crack rock. All right, crystal meth. Crystal meth is by far the most, next to marijuana, but of the illicit drugs in our area, crystal methamphetamine is king. It is solely controlled by the drug cartels. 15 years ago, 20 years ago, the big thing was Nazi meth labs. Y'all remember those? There were always, public service announcements about finding labs. If you come across one, don't touch it. You'd hear about cars just blowing up because they were trying to cook it while they were driving down the road, right? Farmers were finding big Tupperware totes with little labs stashed in the bar ditches on their fields. Now, the Mexican cartels have basically industrialized it. They're making it in mass quantities south of the border and smuggling it across. They're smuggling it whole, and they're smuggling it in liquid form now. So now we have conversion labs that we look for, where basically it comes in and it almost looks like gasoline. And it even comes in like these big 5-gallon jugs, basically, but it looks like gasoline. So if you were walking to someone's shop garage and you see this, have y'all seen the food service jugs that are, they're kind of rectangular, cubed, about this tall. They'll be white, semi-translucent, right? They'll put stuff in. The jugs look just like that, right? Except it looks like they have gasoline in them. That is actually methamphetamine suspended in solution, and oftentimes it is smuggled across the border in the tanks of diesel trucks. So once they get it here, they convert it, and they have to dry it out, and they will it'll re-rock or recrystallize. Whenever you're looking at crystal methamphetamine, some things to look for, or it's commonly known as crank, crystal glass, ice, meth, quick, and locally, it's often referred to as work. Okay? So you may look at your loved one's phone, Snapchat, text messages, anything like that, and someone may say, hey, I've got some work for you. And you're like, man, that's weird. They've got a job. I know what they're doing. No, they're saying, hey, I've got some meth for you. Or, hey, do you have any work? That's what they're talking about. They're talking about crystal meth. Crystal meth is typically smoked in a meth pipe. It's very similar to a crack pipe, with the exception of you have this bowl on the end of it. That bowl has a hole in the very top of it. They will use typically a straw that's cut at an angle. Most of the time it's crimped on one end so they can use it as a scoop. Right? So they'll scoop up that crystal meth out of the bag. They will then load it into that hole. They'll stick the stem in their mouth, and they will light it up. And as it starts to vaporize, they'll inhale those fumes. So oftentimes the stem will have a chalky haze to it. And most times, if you look at a crack user or a meth user, if you look at their fingers, they're typically burned. Heroin. Heroin's a highly potent opiate, very addictive. We have 3 variations in the Lubbock area. We have China White, which is the primo stuff that comes from China, and their process to make the heroin, it results in a white product. Mexican Brown is made in Mexico, obviously, hence the name. Their version of production generates a browner substance, and black tar heroin is this substance right here. They say black tar is a little more potent than Mexican Brown. Mexican Brown is typically what they would, back in the 90s, they would put it in a capsule and they would ingest it, just take the pill, right? And that was typically called Chiva. But look for terminology of H, smack, hell dust, horse, and Chiva. It's pretty much what you're looking for. Typically how heroin is used, they're usually going to inject it. That's the most common method. We don't see many pills or capsules anymore. They will take some water. They will stick that water in a spoon. They will drop a piece of the powder into the spoon. They will heat it up. Once it turns this brown color and it starts to cook up a little bit, they will then take either a cotton ball, or they'll take a cigarette filter, cut it in half, and throw it in there. They'll stick the needle into that filter or cotton ball, and then draw the liquid into the needle using that filter as a filter to filter out any particulate, because the heroin's bad enough shooting into your veins. You don't want to put anything solid into your veins either. So these are called bindles. Bindles are exclusive to the heroin trade. They're basically folded pieces of paper that have individual doses that dealers will wrap up for distribution. Kratom. Anybody heard of kratom? Or anybody not heard of kratom? Okay, kratom is an interesting substance. It is not a controlled substance. It is listed as a drug of concern by the DEA. It is sold in our local head shops, smoke shops, whatever you want to call them. It is marketed, back up. In a low dose, it produces a stimulant effect. High doses produce a sedative effect and can lead to psychotic symptoms, psychological and physiological dependence. It is addictive. It's mostly abused by oral ingestion in the form of a tablet, capsule, or extract. They can make a kratom tea with it. It can also be dried, powdered, ingested as a tea, or the kratom leaf can be chewed, kind of like how they chew khat in Africa. It is addictive, causes hallucinations, delusion, confusion, nausea, itching, sweating, dry mouth, constipation, increased urination, a loss of appetite, and the long-term use can cause anorexia, weight loss, and insomnia. With all those great things, it is marketed as an energy booster, a mood enhancer, a pain reliever, and an antidote for opioid withdrawal. Available, not just right there at 19th and Q. You can buy it. Okay, fentanyl. I'm going to take a little bit more time speaking of fentanyl because that is the modern day crack. Okay? A few years ago, we started seeing fentanyl start coming in, illicit fentanyl come into our area. You start seeing the names Apache, China Girl, Chinatown, Dance Fever, Friend, Goodfellas, Great Bear, He-Man, Jackpot, King Ivory, Murder 8, Poison, Tango, and Cash. Those are all terms that can be applied to that when you're looking through that communications. Locally, we don't see it in powder form very much. When it first hit back in 2017, 2018, there was a big case. There was 3 people that ran a surveillance. It was a small business in a strip center off of 82nd and I-27, and they sold like covert surveillance cameras and gimmicky stuff, kind of like that. They used that as a front to start importing fentanyl off of the dark web, and they start selling it. Since then, we were able to shut them down after we had a rash of overdoses. They are all serving time in federal prison right now, I believe. The reason why we were having so many overdoses on it is fentanyl is an overdose amount. The clinical amount is 2 milligrams, is an overdose amount. But that overdose amount is dependent on your body weight, size, tolerance, things of that nature. It can be as low as 250 micrograms can overdose you, all right? So what does that amount look like? If you take a number 2 pencil and you sharpen it, and you stick that pencil in there, that little bit of amount that can fit on that pencil, that is a lethal dose of fentanyl. All right, in comparison, right here, that is a fatal dose of heroin on the left. On the right, those little bitty grains right there is a fatal dose for fentanyl. It was developed as a synthetic opioid in the 1960s. It's 100 times more powerful than morphine. Everybody's seen the war movies, where you have a soldier get injured and they stick them in the leg with some morphine, right, to alleviate their pain. It's 100 times more potent than that, and it's 50 times more potent than heroin. We've instructed all our officers, if it's in a powder form, don't touch it. Call us. We have special suits and hazmat suits and precautions that we'll take to come out and actually collect that for them. We do not ask them, and we've actually told them explicitly, do not try to field test that. We have there is a counter to fentanyl overdoses or any opioid that's been on the market for years. It's called Narcan. The chemical name is Noxolone. Is that right? Yeah, naloxone. Anybody else can say that? Naloxone or something like that, right? Narcan. That's what Narcan is, all right? Carfentanil is something that we are seeing in the Dallas area. Luckily, we are not seeing it in the Lubbock area yet. Carfentanil is 100 times more powerful than standard fentanyl and 10,000 times more powerful than morphine. You know what they use carfentanil for? To tranquilize elephants. And people are taking it. That's the scary thing. So whenever they take any opioid abuser, as many of you probably know, or any substance abuser, they're always looking for, they're trying to get back to that original high, right? So they're constantly chasing that high. With opiates, predominantly, if you take 1 milligram and it gets you high, within a week or so, week and a half, 2 weeks, 1 milligram will not get you that same high. Okay? So people are constantly starting to take more and they become chemically dependent on it. And then as Laura spoke about it earlier with the cannabinoids, opiates work the same way with chemicals in the brains, that it starts replacing that natural receptor or chemical that the brain receptors accept. So they are constantly looking to get that feeling and having to take more and more and more. And then when they don't have it, they start to get sick. So it becomes a vicious cycle. With morphine, a shot of morphine takes 5 to 10 minutes to take effect. It'll last 3 to 6 hours on a 10 milligram dose. And you can read down all the way through here. Fentanyl, though, the effect is immediate. It will last for 1 to 2 hours, and that is measured in 50 micrograms. Okay? Fentanyl was originally developed to ease severe pain for cancer patients and people coming out of surgery. Typically, they would put it on a patch. Okay, and that's how it was manufactured. So that's why it's measured in micrograms, because it is so effective. Just a visual representation again. If you're, this is most police officers' bank accounts right here. So we definitely don't do this for the money. If you think of a sugar packet is 1 gram. 1/1000th of a gram is all the way down here. Okay, that's 1/1000th of a gram, which is this right here. That is the fatal dose for fentanyl. When they are prescribing it or applying it in a medicinal setting, that is where they dose it at, in those micrograms. Okay, some common terminology. How we're normally going to hear it called here is blues, 30s, oxy, or perks. Perks referring to Percocet. So what we're looking at nowadays is, though, we have people that will ingest the pill just by taking the pill. We have people that will smoke it. You can crush it up and snort it. You can inject it just like you can with cocaine or heroin or any of these other things. But with the blues, or the pill form, is by far the most prominent way that we're seeing it throughout the United States. Here are some derivatives of fentanyl. You know, human nature, or U.S. nature, I guess, consumer product science, is we always want to make things better, make them stronger, make them more efficient. So these are some fentanyl derivatives. Any pill that we seize here in Lubbock, we submit to the DEA lab in Dallas, the South Central lab. They will tell us if it is, one, a controlled substance that is in that pill. If it is a controlled substance, they will tell us a quantitative report, and it will tell us everything that's in that pill. Some of the things that we're seeing in pills that we have seized here locally are acetylfentanyl, desopropanol fentanyl, fentanyl hydrochloride, norfentanyl, fluorofentanyl. This one is very common right here. That very long second semester word right there. Parafluora isobutyl fentanyl. And then we're seeing some other things that are technically a synthetic fentanyl as well, or another synthetic opiate that's not technically fentanyl, but they are very, very powerful. Our biggest concern right now across the nation and in our local area is this right here, xylazine. And I'll talk more about that here in a second. We'll just get into it now. Xylazine is predominantly used, or only used legally, in veterinary medicine. It is used as an animal tranquilizer. It is typically used in conjunction with ketamine, which is also typically only used in veterinary medicine. With xylazine, it enhances the effect of the fentanyl. So what we're seeing is we're having a ton of counterfeit pills. And that's where we're going to get into our one pill can kill. Social media has obviously changed all of our lives. We communicate, we entertain ourselves. Bathroom breaks take longer. Okay, yeah, you're still awake. Okay. But back in 2021, DEA recognizing this, that we were having a bunch of fake pills being sold and consumed by the population, that they were having fatal overdoses. People were dying. We're like, what is going on? So they started figuring it out, and what the cartels have figured out is we are a pill culture, right? We take a pill to wake up. We take a pill to go to sleep. We take a pill to feel better. We take, it's in our music. I can't think of the name of the song, but it's a popular rapper. He's the whole chorus is Molly Percocet, Molly Percocet. So Molly referring to a methamphetamine product that's dealt in clubs, and then Percocets. Percocet is oxycodone. Percocet is no longer under brand name manufactured as Percocet, but everybody still refers to Percocet when they're talking about these blue pills, when Percocet was actually a white pill, but they call these Percocet or Oxy. But again, that blue M30 pill, that's going to be predominantly what we're seeing. When you're looking at how they looking at them and saying, oh no, that's a fake pill. That's not necessarily true. Your authentic pills typically have a lower quality standard than what the cartel is making the fake pills. All right, so do not gauge the validity of a pill or the authenticity of a pill by its appearance. So in 2021, they came out and said 4 out of every 10 pills that the South Central Lab at DEA tested contained a lethal dose of fentanyl. Fast forward to 2022, that changed to 6 out of every 10 pills contained a lethal overdose or lethal dosage. 2023, we are now up to 7 out of 10 DEA tested pills contain a fatal dosage of fentanyl. Okay, again, these are not the pills that are coming out of your pharmacy prescribed by your doctor. These are pills that are coming through street-level dealers, from your kids' friends, associates, people they meet in social settings. They say, hey, I've got this, or they see them on Snapchat. And we'll talk about that more here in just a second. These are some of the first fentanyl labs that we came across in Lubbock and across the nation. Whenever they were mixing the powdered fentanyl, which again, we're not seeing much of anymore. Most of this production is done not in this area. We have yet to find a pill press here. But like, this is in a hotel room. That shouldn't make you feel very good. That's all fentanyl powder that they tried to destroy when the cops are coming through the door. How sanitary do these look? Not at all, right? Kind of gross. This one right here, that's a homemade pill press. That was actually about 3 blocks south of Cooper High School, about 4 years ago. It's no longer there. We've taken care of that problem. This was at a local house when we ran a search warrant. And how this fentanyl process works is the cartel will, or a Chinese scientist, yes, Chinese, they will show up and they approach the cartel and they said, hey, we've got this product, and they educated the cartel, namely the Sinaloa cartel, said, hey, if you do this, we can make you a lot of money and we can be in business together. So 1 kilo of fentanyl powder provided from a Chinese pharmaceutical company to the cartel will make 500,000 pills. Those pills are then sold, depending on where you are. If you're just the end user, you may be paying $20 to $30 a pill. Okay, is that what the dealer's buying them for? No. It takes the cartel 50 cents to make one pill. Once it hits the border, it's $1. Once it goes from across the border to the main supplier, that will bring it into the Lubbock area, it's $2. And then once people start using, because they're constantly chasing that high, right? So they get high on their own supply. You heard that terminology? All right. They start selling to support their own habit. So sometimes they want to try to get the powder themselves, and someone that has explained this process to them. I can't make heads or tails of that. Again, I'm a Marine. It's pictures, and maybe a crayon would help, but it doesn't. Do you think your average run-of-the-mill person walking around, is there anybody in here that could look at that, decipher it, and make a pill with the correct quantities? No, absolutely not. But they think they can because they're chasing that high. Work with me. Here in a second, this thing's going to go nuts. I just know it. Did I turn it off? Nope. Nope, it's still on. You can just advance that one slide, please. I have frustrated the computer. Okay. All right, so these are pictures of the labs in Mexico that DEA came across. There are hundreds of these labs spread across the countryside. This right here is how they mix the fentanyl with the caffeine, with the xylazine, with all the other substances they need to throw in there so that they can get to that weight, right? And let me be clear, drug cartels most of the time are not terrorists. They are very violent, but they are in business to make money, right? Do you think they're trying to overdose everybody and kill everybody? No, they're not. But do you think they have much quality control right there? No. So when they train their cooks, the life expectancy of a cook is about 6 months before they die. They either get killed by the cartel or they overdose themselves by accidental exposure. So this is where they're mixing. So they're mixing all the materials here. And then this is another method of mixing. That's where they're dyeing the powder into the blue concentration to be put into a pill press. The pills in this one look like Xanax, or school buses as they're called. So those are then loaded into the pill press, they kick out, and then there's your final product. So there's several million pills in that tote right there. Okay, this is a very good website. If you will go to that is the DEA's One Pill Can Kill resource page. On that, if you are a parent, educator, anybody that has any interaction with children, look through their phones. I'll get out of your way here. Look through their phones, look through their Snapchats, and see if you see any of these emojis, right? So a lot of our drug dealers, they'll be hitting up social media. All they'll do is they'll get on Snapchat, they'll say, store's open, and they'll put a blue pill, $5, $10, $20. Then people respond to that, okay? So you've got several different emojis that mean different things. We all know how our kids are. They speak in emojis. Us, not so much, all right? So we have a go-by. So if you go to that website, you can look at this. You can actually print off that page and use that as a resource. You can try to figure out what your kids are talking about. If there's any of these on there, be concerned. I thought this one was interesting, the Canadian maple leaf. It's the universal sign for drugs. When I was researching this slideshow and getting material put together, anytime I would enter a term for, looking for graphics, how to smoke meth, how to do this, how to do crack. I kept coming across these websites or these pictures that had the same web address. And it's a Canadian government website that teaches people a safer way to do drugs. And they will actually provide you a smoking kit. They'll give you a crack pipe. They'll give you a meth pipe. They'll also give you, resources, for addiction. But that mentality is just, I can't even understand it. But it has been, I think, my understanding is completely decriminalized in Canada. Okay, this, I will say before I start getting into some of these videos and pictures, every single person that we show on these videos has either one, already been arrested, prosecuted, and is serving their prison sentence. All this stuff can be public record or discoverable. If they are someone that has deceased, we've already had the permission of their families, so we're not trying to out anybody. And most of them, or all of them, all the victims that we name in this slideshow, they have consented to the use of that story, just to further the awareness by the public. So whenever people go onto social media, this is our drug dealer. He is, I think he is 17 years old, 16, 17 years old. But he is a member, and it's hard to see, but it says HHG. That is the head honcho gang. All right, so we have a problem throughout the country, especially here in Lubbock. We have these hybrid gangs. So typically 13 to 18 years old. They do not identify with any particular standard prison gang, Crips, Bloods, Aryan Brotherhood, Aryan Nation, Mexican Mafia, Texas Syndicate. They don't affiliate with any of those. They have friends from school, and they just kind of click up and they say, "Hey, I know you're a West Texas. I know you're VAB, or you're an Aryan. We like hanging out together because it's all about the money." All right. So what they'll do is they'll go out, they'll break into your cars, they'll find guns, they'll then take those guns, they'll trade them to an adult that deals meth, or typically weed. Weed is our cash crop for violent crime in Lubbock, Texas. From those 13 to 18-year-olds. They will then take that weed and they will sell it online. They are now starting to get in a little bit to the pill game because they see it so profitable. So this is our suspect. This is someone posted this or provided this to us of the aftermath of a social media meetup to buy a pill.
Go further on his arm. It needs to be tied off right here.
You gotta tie it off, man.
I'm gonna let. He's gonna bleed
I know it's gonna
He has been shot.
It's gonna hurt, but it's gonna save your life, right?
So whenever he showed up with the
Just
money
keep
to buy
talking, okay?
buy the drugs,
Talking to us.
Do you know those people?
the suspect just robbed him, shot him, and stole his
I'm
money.
coming. If they're coming.
What's their name?
Jigga, I just know him as Jigga. Oh, fuck!
It's broken. Oh, God.
His leg's broken?
Yeah, you shot him in the femur.
Shot through his left arm into his right
They're
femur.
coming, babe.
Hey, you got family we can call and let
Do
know?
you have anybody? We didn't need us to call.
Is that him on right
What's your
there?
Hey, do you
name?
know Jesus?
Yeah.
Man.
Are you praying?
Did you hear what he asked him? Hey, do you know Jesus? That's never a good day. If you're laying on the ground bleeding and someone's asking if you know Jesus. So talk to your kids, talk to your loved ones, steer them away from these social media, whatever they're trying to buy on social media, don't do it. All right. What's in the counterfeit? So these are all counterfeit pills that have been submitted to the DEA lab. If going in line with that social media purchase, that Snapchat purchase, he says, "I'm going to post up a blue pill." So we know they know what they're going to buy. They think they're going to buy an oxycodone, a perk. Okay, these are not the hardcore opiate users. These are your college students, people that just need to take the edge off. They're just looking. They've been studying all night. They want to buy some Adderall. something to get them through so they can study and take the test the next day. So they think it's a legitimate pill because, we started taking Flintstone vitamins as kids, right? So everybody takes pills. So they think it's legit and they'll check. They're not dumb. They're going to check on Google and they're going to say a round blue pill with an M on one side and a 30 on the other. It's going to tell them it's oxycodone. It's not oxycodone. It's actually fentanyl. These are all pills, counterfeit pills or fake pills that have been submitted. And you can see what's actually in there. So this one is marketed as an oxycodone. It's actually tramadol. This one is a Xanax. It's fentanyl. Oxycodone, it's heroin, oxycodone, and purofentanyl. And fentanyl, oxycodone is actually alprazolam. Then there's this one. It's methamphetamine, fluoroprozolam, oxycodone, and alprazolam. So they're mixing things that are, stimulants and depressants. Very dangerous for drug interactions or counteractions. Again, we have an authentic oxycodone pill versus a counterfeit. Look how clean those lines are on the pressings. Legitimate Xanax, counterfeit Xanax. We have seen yellow and white counterfeit Xanax here in Lubbock, Texas. I worked a case about a year ago where I seized right at 1 kilogram of those. So that's about 2,000 pills. Adderall. Last year, we started seeing a trend with rainbow-colored pills. Drug dealers want to make their pills stand out from another dealer's pills. All right, so how do they do that? They make them multicolor. And what does it also do? It appeals to a younger crowd. Okay? These are some pills that were pressed here locally several years ago. This individual, obviously, this is when the multicolored first started coming out. He was selling these in the clubs at night, so it was dark in there. When we arrested him, it's right when powdered fentanyl had just kind of come into the market in our area, and it had all these white specks. So when we were debriefing him, we were interviewing him, we asked him, we said, what are those white specks? Is that fentanyl? And he goes, man, I don't know what those are. Okay. And he's like, what about that black? What is that? And he goes, man, yeah. He said, in my garage, and he was, he kind of just explained the layout of his garage, and we had seen it. We'd already been in there. He was, it was kind of like a hoarder's garage. There's like stuff packed up everywhere. Lots of cats, like 20 or so, and lots of rats or mice. We think they'd kind of clicked up because there was way too many mice for there to be that many cats. But he said, got some people awake. Here we go. He said, well, his pill hopper, his pill press sits on a table. That table's not level, and that pill hopper kind of shakes. Well, as it shakes, that powder that's in the hopper sometimes will fall out onto the floor. So he said, you know what I think that is? I think the white specks are old McDonald's French fries, and the black is most likely going to be rat feces. All right? So if you're buying one of these pills in a club and it's dark, you're already looking for a pill, and you think you know what you're buying, right? Are you going to look at that and before you pop it in your mouth? No, these people are just throwing it in their mouths. It's gross. These were seized earlier this year. Some more multicolored pills. October of 22, this was the first time we saw all the multicolored pills that came in. This was in Phoenix. That's what really started to hit the news. Marketing, they're all about marketing. They're trying to get it to our kids. They try to make it look familiar. They even try to brand it. We're always going to have guns. If you look right up here, you see this is all methamphetamine. Methamphetamine. You have some black tar heroin. And then all of a sudden, with all our meth dealers, we started seeing the blues pop up. We start talking to these dealers. We're like, man, what's up with those? Man, I don't know what they are. He said, the cartel pushed them on me. And, they started handing them out and said, maybe you sell some of the meth because cartels control all the meth. Cartels control all the fentanyl that comes in. So they said, start handing these out. What are they doing? They're trying to get a customer base. They're trying to get people addicted to it. So they start handing them out for free. But another marketing, I mean, Toy Story is not even safe. Again, appealing to that younger crowd. This right here was the largest bust to date 2 years ago. And this is a smuggling technique. This is not how it's being sold. This is how they get it through across the border. It was in a bin of Legos. But again, multicolored pills. March of this year, Tempe, Arizona. That last one was 15,000 pills. To date, that was the largest seizure we had had. This one in March of this year was 4.5 million pills. 66 kilos of fentanyl powder, 138 kilos of cocaine, 3,100 pounds of methamphetamine, 35 kilos of heroin, 49 firearms, and $2 million off of a single search warrant effort. That is insane, folks. We are inundated with it. It is everywhere. Okay, everybody remember last year, about this time, right before Halloween, remember seeing this picture come out? So everybody was scared thinking that Skittles on the store shelves had fentanyl in them. It doesn't. Remember, drug dealers, cartel, they're business people. They're not terrorists. They're not trying to stock them on your store shelves. That's going to kill you. That's not what they're trying to do. They need return customers. If they kill you, oh well, but that's not their goal. Vadim Bahudin. Vadim Bahudin was a Russian national. He was a criminal. He was in prison for several years in Russia. Once he got out of prison, he hopped a flight, flew to Mexico to a resort city on the West Coast. Instead of going to the resort, he made a beeline for the border, crossed the port of entry at the port of San Isidro, port of entry there, Tijuana area, and claimed asylum. Border Patrol gives him his little piece of paper. It says he needs to report back in 90 days. You think that happened? It did not. He made a beeline for Phoenix. He was hanging out in Phoenix for a while. That's where he got clicked up with the drug cartels and distributing fentanyl. And then he's like, man, I need to get out on my own. So he looks at Lubbock. After we spoke to him, we said, well, why Lubbock? He goes, man, y'all got Texas Tech University, Wayland Baptist, Lubbock Christian, South Plains College. You got 4 fairly large college or universities with a ton of young population, a ton of youth. I can go there. I've got my own source. I can drop the price on the pills, and I can flip the market to my advantage. So he moves over to the North Loop, and he sets up shop at the La Quinta next to the Heart Hospital on the North Loop, next to all that student housing, right? That's where he sets up shop. We get word of him. We were already working a large fentanyl case last year, and we'll get into a lot of those pictures on that, but we started hearing about the Russian, right? It's like something out of a TV show, but yeah, it was real. He shows up here. We eventually were able to get into him. This was in his car. Those are all those blue M30 pills, right? Back up. Those pills right there were actually his personal stash, okay? He was so addicted to these fentanyl pills, he was smoking 30 to 40 pills a day, okay? That's how severe this addiction is. These are what we recovered out of his room. Obviously, those are blue M30s. They came back from the lab as clonazepam. This one, I forget what they actually identified as, but they had fentanyl and Tylenol, acetaminophen in there. So the acetaminophen is obviously the filler, right? This one has clonazepam, heroin, methamphetamine, and lidocaine. And it's supposed to be Xanax. Again, more pills from the same investigation. Taylor Watson. Taylor Watson was a football player, Eastern New Mexico. While he was a football player there, he got injured, blew out his knee, had to have surgery, was prescribed prescription opiates, got hooked on pain pills. Okay, that began his downward cycle. As he tried to feed that high after getting addicted, he tried to kept increasing his dose, increasing his dose. The pills weren't working anymore, so he turned to heroin. He said he came to the Lubbock area and was hanging around with some of our drug crowd. He didn't know that the person sitting next to him was one of our informants. And he's bragging to him. He's like, man, you want to go with me to El Paso? I've got a line on 4 kilos of heroin. And we're like, he's like, yeah, I'll go. What's the informant do? What any good informant does, he's looking for a payday. He calls us and says, hey, this guy, Taylor, says he can get 4 kilos of heroin. We're like, no way, not happening. You have to understand, heroin is a very niche drug in the Lubbock area. It's very hard to work. It's a very hard, closed circle to get into. So when they say 4 kilos, we're like, there is no way we advance that. He does it. So we get word that he's able to get it. He comes back into the Lubbock area. That 4 kilos right there. Once we opened it, we couldn't find him initially when he came back into town because we kind of blew it off. We're like, yeah, there's no way you're getting that. We get word a couple days later, he did do it. So this is after we'd already seized it. So we were able to find him, arrest him. We seized this product, and it's black. So we're thinking, man, it's black tar heroin. Heroin has a very vinegar smell to it. So whenever you smell it, it reeks of vinegar. So it's very hard to miss. But it's very gummy, right? From that picture earlier, you saw it was kind of gooey looking. This was not. This was almost like crystalline, right? It shattered. It would flake off, but it was black. We're like, man, what is that? So we ran it, when we submitted it to the lab, that came back as 60% fentanyl, 40% heroin. If a heroin addict had injected the same amount they would normally do for their maintenance dose, they would have overdosed. We would have had a mass overdose in the Lubbock area. Whenever we arrested him, we got his phone. 99% of the time, we can get into your phones. Okay? We get a search warrant. We can get into the phones. We get them unlocked. He thought the black tar heroin looked a little weird. He was like, nah, I'm going to use what they call a crash test dummy. So they find someone and say, hey, man, look at this. You want to try it? I'll give it to you for free. This guy's like, yeah. So he records it.
Kids do not do drugs.
He doesn't even want to use it. He's scared to death of it. He even says, kids do not do drugs. Okay? Knowing what we all know, even what the layperson knows about heroin, how do people react when they're on heroin? It's a depressant, right? They kind of fall out. That is not a heroin high. This is also off of his phone. This is at the, the Overton Hotel. He's made a deal. A lady called him and said, hey, I want some pills, but you got to do them in front of me. So he records this. He's stealing her money because she has nodded off.
Hey, I'm going to take this money and I'm going to go get that room, okay? For another night, okay? Because we're not going to be out here in time. We don't even have a ride, okay? I'll be right back.
All right. Is there anything she can do to protect herself in that situation? Not a thing. Okay? I know I'm running over time. I apologize. I just have a few more slides, and I'll race through a few more to get there. But what is important about this, what's important to tell our youth, is in Carrollton, Texas, they had, I think it's Dallas Morning News did a very long expose, like 5 or 6. Some of y'all may have seen that, where they had a bunch of high school students that were overdosing. And what they figured out is there was a hotel right across the street where these girls and gentlemen were, these young teens were going to get these pills, right? Thinking they were what? Oxy or Adderall. They weren't. They were fentanyl. So what they would do is these young girls would go in there, these teenage girls, they'd go in and they'd say, just like this, I don't know, the dealer would say, man, I don't know you. You got to use it in front of me. You're not walking out here with it because I'm not going to have you snitch and get me in trouble, right? So what do? They smoke it, they nod off, they get into that vegetative state right there. The dealer then rapes them, films it, and then once they come to, they show them the video, and they say, next week you're going to come back, you're going to sleep with 10 people, have sex with 10 people, or I'm going to send this video to your parents, and he'll show them a picture of their driver's license so they know where they live. That is the reality of human trafficking. It is not a white van that pulls up and snatches kids off the street. Not saying that doesn't happen, but this is the reality of it. This is how it happens. If you have a convict or convicted felon that's been in there, he's been locked up for 20, 30 years, and he's fallen into drug dealing, it's very, very likely. If that's a young man that's in that position, do you think he cares if it's a man, or a boy, or a girl? No. He's going to do the same thing. He's going to rape that young boy and do the exact same thing. This is the Texas Tech dorm room, we believe, one of those common areas. This was also on Taylor's phone. He's filming this young lady as she nods off. That is that posture right there, or that position, is what we often find overdose victims in, that it's too late. They're already dead by that time because they've compressed their diaphragm and they can't breathe. We were on an operation here in Lubbock to buy some dope. They were not a part of this. One of my coworkers, he filmed this. There's a man sitting right here. He's already nodded off also. She's nodded off smoking a cigarette.
Just crazy. Oh, you woke up.
All right. These pills right here were seized August 16th of this year. We talk about Flintstones vitamins. We got the Transformers, Decepticons, we got Donkey Kong, and we got the Ferrari logo. Absolutely marketing towards our youth. These were seized October 17th. These came in the mail from Houston from a known target that we're investigating right now. They look like Adderall. Google will say they're Adderall, but when we tested them, they came back straight methamphetamine. Paraphernalia related to fentanyl use. Whether it's fentanyl, whether it's dabs, you will see these pieces of foil. Laura earlier mentioned that in her presentation about finding these pieces of foil. Right here, you'll see 2 blue pills. What they do is they will put the pill on the foil, they'll put a heat source underneath the foil, and as that pill begins to cook off or melt, it will start to move, and they will just kind of turn that, just chase it around the edges of the foil so they can start burning fresh material. And then they will use a straw, some kind of pipe to inhale it. So if you see, would it be normal to open up someone's purse, wallet, car, and find like little 3-inch by 3-inch squares of aluminum foil stacked up? Is that normal? No, that's a clue, okay? Be aware of it. This right here, this was at the hotel room across the street from the Overton last year. She was selling pills. These are packaged up for sale. She was also shooting heroin. This is actually going to be methamphetamine right here. Fake Adderall. We pretty much confirmed these were fake Adderall just because they crumbled up very easily. They weren't very good fakes. That same hotel room, here's a smoker's kit. So you've got all these straws that have been cut up. They use those as the pipe. You have your heat sources. You got lighters. You've got loose pills right here. You got some tin foil in the back. You got a scale right here. And then right there, what we're about to talk about is Narcan. okay? Just in case they overdose, they've got that Narcan there. Narcan is temporary. Okay, I didn't even know this until researching this. Whenever if you have an opioid overdose, if it's heroin, any other opiate, and you stick that in someone's nose and you depress that plunger, tilt their head back, depress the plunger, it injects the required dose into the nostril, it will almost immediately counteract the opioid overdose. And they come out of it and they are pissed. Why? They just wasted all their money and you just ruined their high. Okay? With fentanyl, though, it's not working as effectively. We're having to give multiple doses. Okay? There's a couple reasons for that. One is the potency of fentanyl. Two, they're cutting fentanyl with xylazine. Xylazine is that animal tranquilizer. It is not an opiate. So while the Narcan affects the opium overdose and counteracts those receptors, the xylazine, when used in conjunction with an opiate in the human body, it lowers the heart rate to dangerously low levels. Okay, so now you have a reduced heart rate in conjunction with the reduced breathing, which is the result of a fentanyl overdose. It relaxes the diaphragm so they can't draw in as much air, so you hear this labored breathing when you come across them. It is also only effective for 1 hour. So if you give a dose of Narcan, get them to the hospital. Call 911, give them the dose, stay with them for an hour. You may have to give them another dose. You cannot overdose someone on Narcan. Okay? They say there's nothing wrong with it and you can't overdose it, but as opposed to them dying, I think it's okay. And they will even say you can give multiple doses. Xylazine, if it's used repeatedly, they use it up in Philadelphia a lot. They'll inject it because they become xylazine dependent up there, a lot of the opiate users, and they get this zombie effect. You'll see, these are just pictures. They're not walking, they are standing still, just hunched over. It's the strangest thing. If they repeated use, you'll start to develop these nasty skin ulcers. This is a sheriff's office deputy responding to a fentanyl overdose here in Lubbock County. This is a nice home. Very loving family. The mom in this household now actually goes around and presents. This is the deputy starting to open the box of Narcan. He's going to give her the Narcan, but listen to the breathing.
Straight in the nose.
Hear that labored wheezing? On the bed beside her, remember, fentanyl is immediate, so that overdose is going to be immediate. You got the foil, you got your vapes, those are the things of the devil right there. You got a heat source.
I don't know. We have sheriff here right now.
Okay. This was September 26th of this year. This is a young woman that is homeless, struggling with opioid addiction, and was supposed to go into treatment the next morning. We talked about, Dr. Harris spoke about family and community and, having a belonging, right? I agree. Some of that community, sometimes they overweight their loyalty to their friends as opposed to their friends' welfare. Okay, and you'll hear that by this gentleman that actually called the police. This woman lives in her car.
So we know she took heroin?
Yes, she's gonna be upset when she sees a police officer.
Okay, I don't care. Step back for me.
She's gonna be upset when she sees you. That's what he's
Just
worried
step right
about.
over there for me, sir.
What I want you to listen for here in just a second is you're going to hear that wheezing that labored breathing. Almost sounds like snoring.
3215 Narcan administered. What's your name?
Amber.
Amber. Amber, can you wake up for me?
So he's already administered the Narcan, and he's starting to give her a sternum rub. She barely comes to about 60 seconds later. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward through that in the interest of time, because I'm running way over my time. I'm sure y'all are hungry. And I hate being that guy. Sorry. Here. Okay. Let me back up just a couple slides. Okay. Joshua Rance. Joshua Rance was a graduate of Coronado High School. Did very well there. He was a student body president. He was an Eagle Scout. All right. He was adopted. Came here from Korea as a child. Has a twin brother. Very loving family. He got into what his avenue of leading into addiction, I'm not 100% clear on, but he did get addicted. We had already, in our investigation last year, he had already become tied up. He had facilitated a couple deals. So we knew that he was going to be indicted, okay? So he was already a target of our investigation. We get a call from an informant that, hey, I think he overdosed. So sure enough, we had officers on the scene, and he had in fact overdosed 24 hours prior, okay? His girlfriend was still in the house. She was also an addict. She didn't call because she found him, and I took that picture out of here of his crime scene photo, but she didn't call because she wanted to finish getting high, okay? That is how warped an addict's mentality gets, okay? She was sad. She was upset about what had happened to Josh, but she wanted to get her high. She needed to finish that. She didn't want to waste it. So out of that like I said, that investigation was already going on. He was just one cog in a very large wheel. These are all houses, photos from search warrants we ran related to that investigation. So we have pill packs, we have little cylinders, we have a plastic straw that's melted on the end. That's what this young lady was using as the pipe. We got our foil. We have a bowl we were mixing. I'm not sure. I think she was running out of pills. She was trying to make them last. Right here we have, those are actually blue pills. Actually, they're white. Here is her kit. So we have a lot of stems or pipes. Right there is a meth pipe. This gentleman, or actually this woman right here, she carried a gun on her because she dealt. She had been ripped off a couple times, but you see in the background you got syringes, something to look out for. Guns, she's carrying pills on her. She's got some crystal meth with her, and that's her main dealing bag. This was also from that hotel across the street from the Overton. This is a spoon with burned up, it's actually going to be a pill that's burned up on there. They have more pills packaged for sale. There was $12,000 cash. She was actually supposed to go and take this to a gentleman by the name of Rolex. They were supposed to trip and go to Albuquerque and pick up like 30,000 fentanyl pills. That's what they were planning on doing, and bringing them back for sale. Right here, it's for smoking dabs. You got your meth pipes. There's that straw with the crimped end. Here's your small baggies. All right, this is Rolex's house. Lived with his wife. Wife is a very sweet lady. She had a problem. Her husband was troubled. He was a career criminal. She was working 3 jobs, and he was hiding money from her in her own shoeboxes at the top of her closet. So got the weed grinder, got weed. There's that black vacuum sealed bag. There's a scale. And these are all the pills that were in his car. Some of them were legitimate. That's meth, but there's some black tar heroin there, but those right there were pills. He was actually, I'll show you who he is real quick. Some more pills. This is a kilo of cocaine stamped with the double T. All right. All these individuals, these were round one of our fentanyl investigation from last year. These are the federal sentences that they received. So 102 months. The Russian got 160 months. Taylor Watson, 120 months. This is Rolex right here. His is so high because we actually had him on video dealing that pill to Joshua Rance. That was the fatal pill that killed him. So that enhanced his sentence. So he will spending 240 months in the federal penitentiary. And it hits all walks of life. You know, local cheerleader when she was in high school, honor student, football player. Yeah, nothing nice to say about her. This guy was, I had a lot of dealings with that young lady. This gentleman right here was a cop up in Connecticut. He was retired. You know, see what meth did to him. How made him look like an old grandma. Her parents, multimillionaires. And they were living in government housing because of their addiction. They were actually a couple. Some new laws that passed September 1st, House Bill 6. It changed overdoses to a poisoning and allows us to now charge dealers with homicide or murder. So that is a brand new law. We're still in the infancy stages of those prosecution efforts. Designates October this month as Fentanyl Poisoning Awareness Month in line with, Red Ribbon Month. State Bill 867 brings Narcan to all Texas colleges and universities, and I believe that also included into public schools. They all have access to it for free. I believe there's also a law that is allowing you no longer need a prescription for Narcan. You have to go sign out for it, I believe, but you can have access to it. This is an interesting one. Tucker's Law requires schools to educate students in grades 6 through 12 about fentanyl abuse, prevention, and drug poisoning 10 hours a year. That is awesome. Okay? Some good resources for you. Go to the DEA's website, dea.gov. They have all kinds of things on there, resources, educational material, things for use for the media, to put presentations to speak to students. We will also come out and speak to your students or your youth groups. Any group that you're involved with, we do presentations on a weekly basis. I think we've done 200 or so far in the last year. So we're very active with it. National Institute on Drug Abuse, they have a lot of good information as well. If you have any tips, crime tips, drug tips, anything like that, I encourage you to call Crime Line. It is separate from the police department, but they do get the information to us, and you can remain anonymous, and if you so choose, you can be compensated for your efforts. You can go to our website and go to lubbockpolice.com, submit a tip there, or you can text tips to us from your phone. This right here is our very final slide. So thank you for your attention. What this demonstrates right here is just in my investigative group. I work within the high-intensity drug trafficking area task force, okay? That is with the DEA between this is in grams, not pounds, but grams, our investigative efforts of what we've recovered all of last year and this year to date. You can see by the weights, we have a lot of weed, 89 kilos of marijuana. Meth is still king, almost 73 kilos. That is a lot. Cocaine at 13 kilos, crack 1.5 kilos, heroin 10.8. A lot of that was Taylor Watson, a lot of it. And then fentanyl, we're at 13 kilos of fentanyl pills. The kilo is 2.2 pounds, so 26, roughly 28 pounds of fentanyl pills that we've recovered in the last 2 years. So it is alive and well. It is here. Be aware. Do not stay silent. Please reach out. Thank you for your attention.